Last but not least, we have the infusion of the 8 multiple intelligences into differentiated instruction. And here, remember, I talked about what we could do is that we could get strategy number 6 and number 10 to work together and to create an opportunity for success, giving them choice by creating 8 choice boards on multiple intelligences. That would be so cool to tell the parents, guess what? We are using Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence in the class, and here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here are the boards, and here are the activities that we have our students do. And they do self-selection, and our students are all included in this inclusive schooling, in this inclusive school. Exciting stuff, isn't it? So, in summary, I've taken you on this wonderful journey we call differentiated instruction. I'm going to summarize some of it. Number 1, it is multifaceted. Number 2, it responds to diverse needs of all students. Number 3, it is tailoring instruction to meet the needs of specific students. It is not individualizing. It is not any one of those things up there. And I gave you a very simple example of using the highlighter of how you could do differentiation on the go or on the fly. Okay? There's not much planning in that. It's where you are flexible and you can come up and problem solve and troubleshoot right away and try to work with that particular student, trying to meet their unique goals and needs. It just means that you have to rethink your original philosophy, your ways of teaching, and to think of different ways. For example, tiering. What a wonderful concept. Going tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. How many of you would love to see what a differentiation classroom looks like and feels like? Well, actually, I'm going to give you an opportunity to visit a classroom that has differentiated instruction so you can conceptualize what that classroom looks like. And I'm going to have Andy and Autumn to come to the front. Okay? And what Andy and Autumn's going to do, and they are actually going to read, and this is in your handout, they are going to read 2 types of classrooms. Andy is going to be Mr. Appleton, but I'll tell you when to start. And Mr. Appleton is your traditional teacher. And Mrs. Baker, on the other hand, she is more of the differentiated instruction teacher. Actually, she attended Dr. Khan's workshop. And she is differentiated, and she's a real-life example of differentiation. And I'm going to have Andy read out what his classroom looks like, and then we'll have Mrs. Baker. Go ahead, Andy.
Mr. Appleton is teaching about ancient Rome, and his students are reading the textbook in class today. He suggests that they take notes on important details as they read. When they finish, they answer the questions at the end of the chapter. Students who do not finish must do so at home. Tomorrow, they will answer the questions together in class. Mr. Appleton likes to lecture and works hard to prepare his lectures. He expects the students to take notes. Later, he will give a quiz on both the notes and the text. He will give students a study sheet before the test, clearly spelling out what will be on the test.
Thank you very much. I want you to notice in Mr. Appleton's class, this is the norm. This is what happens out there most of the time, the lecture style method and this type of classroom, and it's all over. But I want to open up a doorway now to show you what this could look like in another classroom, working on the same objective, working on the same goals. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Baker, who has attended my DI, Differentiated Instruction Workshop, and she will tell you what's going on in her classroom. Go ahead.
Ms. Baker is also teaching about ancient Rome. She gives her students graphic organizers to use as they read the textbook chapter and goes over the organizers with the class so that anyone who missed details can fill them in. She brings in pictures of the art and the architecture of the period and tells how important the Romans were in shaping our architecture, language, and laws. When she invites some students to dress in togas for a future class, someone suggests bringing in food so that they can have a Roman banquet, and they do. One day, students do a word search puzzle of vocabulary words about Rome via the internet. On another day, they watch a movie clip that shows gladiators in the Colosseum and talk about the favorite entertainment of the period. Later, Ms. Baker reads aloud several myths, and students talk about the myths in cooperative learning groups and that they remember from the 6th grade. When it is time to study for the test, the teacher lets students go over the chapter together, which they like much better than working at home alone. She says students are also instructed to come up with 3 questions of their own to be included in the test. She also wants students to like studying about Rome, so she offers a choice of 10 projects, which she places on the class choice board. Among the options are creating a poster listing important Roman gods and goddesses, their roles and their symbols, developing a travel brochure for ancient Rome that a Roman of the day might have used, writing a poem about life in Rome, dressing dolls like citizens of Rome or drawing the fashions of the time, building a model of an important ancient Roman building or Roman villa, making a map of the Holy Roman Empire. Students can also propose their own topic.
Wow, give them a clap. They did a good job. Yeah. So we have two teachers here, very different approaches. Okay. Now I ask you one question: which teacher would you like to be? And the answer is very obvious. Okay. So what I hope to do today is expose you to what differentiated instruction is, to open up and share with you some of those promising strategies. Never stop learning, and this is where we need to go if we are to embrace education as we should in the future. This is what our students actually love. This is what it is. I also want you to notice that you could have a classroom like that. You are the CEO of your classroom. You are the person that makes those decisions. It is up to you to make that decision and maybe take a different pathway. And I challenge you tomorrow when you walk into your classroom, ask yourself one question: what step have I taken today to get closer to differentiated instruction? I've enjoyed you, and I'm going to ask anyone if you have time for questions. This is a nice time for you to call in, and I'd love to hear from you, East, West, and Middle Tennessee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I would love to hear any question. Feel free to call in right now. Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Yes, we have a question from Paula.
I've heard a lot of negative response to portfolios, basically just because they can't be assessed as validly as your standardized test. So I mean, what can you do to kind of get around that so that you can use a portfolio and have the information that you contain just as valid as a standardized test?
Well, Paula, it's never going to be the same. You're comparing a criterion reference test to a norm reference test. But what we can do, Paula, we can compare student work samples to work samples of others in the classroom and use that as a benchmark. And we can also look at some normative data, but I think we've been focused so much on standardized test scores, we forgot about the portfolio. And what I'm saying is that portfolio creates sort of an ease for the student to be able to match their learning to such an environment. But you're right, it is difficult to match. But you could also use a rubric. You can also quantify that rubric on a scale, on a Likert scale, and you could get a measure from it. But I think the most important part is it is a product, it's authentic, it's engaging, and it's different than just taking a standardized test. So that's why I love portfolios. You have a product. And because of time, I'm going to stop right here, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Dr. Zaf Khan. I'm going to put up Dr. Khan's contact information as I start my close. I'd also like to thank the MTSU education students who joined us in the studio today. I'd like to remind our site facilitators to please have today's participants complete session evaluation forms. If our cable or webcasting viewers would like to give us feedback, we encourage you to complete a form online at www.mtsu.edu/ITSC. You may also download a copy of the PowerPoint slides and handouts that went with today's program by visiting our website. If you'd like a free video copy of today's program, you may send us an unused VHS tape or a -R blank DVD in a pre-addressed stamped mailer. We'd be happy to dub a copy for you free of charge and mail it back to you. Please reference the program number at the bottom of your screen when making your video request. We do ask teachers to limit themselves to 2 video requests per semester and to be patient. It takes us most of the semester to get our programs edited and ready for distribution. Before we sign off, I'd like to thank our technical crew and support staff. I'd like to thank the Education Resource Channel at Middle Tennessee and our cable partners across the state and in Huntsville. As always, I'd like to thank our site facilitators, but most of all, I'd like to thank you, the teachers who joined us for today's program. Thank you.